Fishkin. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Local Motors. So we are a world of vehicle innovations. We are an open source vehicle company. So we have about 30,000 engineers, designers, fabricators, and enthusiasts around the world in 130 countries that are online and collaborate to bring the world's most innovative vehicles to the market. On a platform that we call the Forge online, and people submit their ideas, and then they collaborate on those ideas, and we've put some really special vehicles on the road. We won't be the only future process, but we think we're going to be a big mix of it, big part of the mix. It would be that sort of the micro manufacturing component, which is sort of one order, one make. Or one cell, one make of a vehicle, as well as the open source, crowdsourced element of it, the co-creation, where people from around the world are working to create vehicles. We like to call it co-creation.
What's the difference?
Collaboration is something that happens, I think, in equal parts on some level, and co-creation could be a company and 10 people. It could be 1,000 just individuals. It can, and it's actually a made good at the end of the day. There's something physical that comes out of the process. Collaboration could be just I see as two people working on a math problem together versus co-creation, where you're actually putting a vehicle on the road. Co-creation is collaborative creation, right? It's extreme in that we are building complex mechanical systems, and that's never been done before. People have open sourced or crowdsourced and collaborated on code or logos or a number of things, digital things online. But we're taking things from bytes to bits, right? And that's a new form of I think collaboration. Well, we talk to Fortune 500 companies that say, we have to spend $1 billion or $3 billion before we know if a product's going to be a success or not. And for us, we don't build something that our community isn't asking for. And then even when they've asked for it and designed it, we produce them when they're sold. So it's just much more efficient from understanding what our consumer wants, because they're participating in the process, to much more efficient when it comes to waste, because we're not building inventory and stuff that might become obsolete that nobody wants. I came for this excellent team that is filming me. Right now, they are the bee's knees.
That's right.
The other reason,
well done.
I came today because collaborative innovation is really at the heart of what Local Motors does. And we heard a lot of great experts speaking today on specific components of this growing trend of collaborative innovation. And I think Local Motors represents a great study that embodies all of those expertise, whether it's crowdsourcing, digital manufacturing, micro-manufacturing, global design. And I got the sense walking out that people, after hearing us speak, said, "Oh wow, this is possible." Like everything I've been hearing about digital manufacturing today, or the third industrial revolution, or the maker movement, or disparate people who speak different languages but share similar skill sets, collaborating, to produce a real good. That people are like, wow, this actually is happening. It's not just theoretical, and that's an important point. Like if you think about Facebook was a revolution in communication, and if you look at something like Local Motors, it's really sort of one of the edges or the tips of the spear as relates to a revolution in collaboration, right? So you go from just being able to talk to people around the world to actually being able to be productive with them on a consumer product, on a complex, consumer product. I thought the stuff on China was fascinating. It was just an overview of the Chinese mentality as relates to innovation that I wasn't aware of. So that was helpful for me. I was also somewhat I noticed that like this trend that I've seen in the past, that people tend, when they talk about digital manufacturing, they tend to harp on 3D printing, which is such a small part of the digital manufacturing or digital fabrication future, but it's the most visible part today, and it's the most tangible, and it's the first to be available in whatever capacity to consumers. So people tend to spend an inordinate amount of time focused on that one technology, and that's not to say I don't believe in it and think it's great, but I think people need to understand that the revolution that's happening in digital fabrication is the actual ability to share and iterate on and then use to produce the data on two sides of the world simultaneously. So so it's not about someone. It used to be someone with their hand was carved. That same hand needed to carve that same good on the other side of the world. Now it's the data that's important and the ability to share that data, less so than it's just this thing that we're calling 3D printing, which is great. 3D printing's great, but there's so much more to it. We found a new way to recognize and manage the IP process, and in fact may be better than the old way, where it was often he said, she said when it came to an argument. And that if anyone who saw the Facebook movie saw that play out with Facebook. If you're collaborating online, we as locomotors see to the bit of information everybody's input, and therefore have a record of what that input is. So there's a lot of ways that this world could go as relates to IP. I think we found a model that is working well for our community, and we're certainly not, we like YouTube are not in the business of stealing other people's IP. If somebody were to say this idea that someone posted is ours, we'll take it down, assuming they have a valid claim. Well, I came to Locomotors with my own vision that it was a platform for enabling local energy economies, and so that might be a transition you weren't expecting. But I believe the future is one where there isn't one primary fuel source, but where any community can say we have lots of coconuts, or we have lots of sun, or we have lots of hydrogen available around here, can have the world design them a vehicle, create jobs and build it locally, and use their local fuel to run that vehicle on. I see the world moving towards energy nodes, societal nodes that are energy economies, local energy economies. It won't ever be the sole structure, but I think for me, as it relates to the future with Locomotors, that's where I hope we're going as a company, is enabling that type of societal shift.